Hey everybody, welcome back to Young Engineers of Today, the last Young Engineers of Today class for the spring. So I hope you all had a good couple of days. I hope we had a good class on Monday with Ms. Dubik, excuse me. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So as I understand it, you guys left off here, which was the ability to, well, yeah, turn your entire body into a touchscreen, which is pretty cool, I think. Pretty interesting that you have the ability to turn your body into an input surface, because that's sort of been the well, it's been a major point of interest for people making, you know, interactive portable things using sort of the natural motions and parts of our body and things like that. Things we're familiar with, things we deal with every single day in order to interact with technology. But yes, let's just go ahead and let's continue on down the line, shall we? And if we end up ending a little bit early, oh well, so as it goes. It's the last class anyway. We'll just take it easy. We can spend some time talking afterwards if you guys would like. Oh, yep, that was the one. Tattoos let you control your smartphone using your skin. So this one's kind of interesting. It's a new basically it's sort of like an exosuit, but not quite there. But let me go ahead and link this to you. That way you can watch it as well. Put that there. I'll go ahead and mute it, and you guys can follow along. It's pretty short, right? But pretty cool as well. The idea that you know, there's that something like this exists. Um, you know, the reactive liquids making it essentially at least bullet resistant. The sort of enhanced sensors and communications suite that's in the helmet, so that, you know, the person using the suit can you know, perceive a wider range of things, as well as have better communications with whoever their, you know, commanding officer is, or tactical command. And the ability to monitor the soldier as well, which is just, you know, sort of a, I say sort of, it's actually a vital thing for, you know, battlefield health, being able to tell whether or not something is, you know, something is wrong with the soldier in the middle of a fight or a situation. Next on the list, we've got artificial intelligence. Go ahead and pop that in there, just so you guys can read it as well. This one's not a video though. This is an infographic. This is the AI forecast for 2017. So as you can see, the first thing on the list here, more conversational interfaces. So basically, more natural, more natural English. It could be possible that, who knows? Maybe your children or your grandchildren are taught by a computer, and it sounds a lot like me, except with a lot fewer ums and uhs and halts and pauses in my conversation. Um, you know, you never know. The future tends to move in directions that we don't necessarily anticipate. It doesn't tend to pan out the things that we think it's going to pan out in, and then we make rapid strides in development in other areas that we just could have never anticipated. Back in the 50s, everybody was thinking that they were going to have flying cars and jetpacks and stuff like that. Well, so much for that. But they also thought the computers were going to be the size of a room, and they were going to be running on reels and blinky lights and stuff like that. And it would sort of blow their mind now to know that we've got what would essentially be considered supercomputers in that era in our pockets. So, there's that. Design helps us trust AI. Designers will apply knowledge of human interactions that earn trust and respect to AI systems, so we will rely on AI and use it. AI will improve its use of elements of communication like tone, sentiment, timing, visual cues, and word choice, because that's always been a thing. It's the fact that, we might have some sort of artificial intelligence or something like that that's able to construct sentences, but it might come out weird and awkward and stilted. We're aware of the fact that we're talking to a computer. Imagine listening to like one of those text-to-speech things where it's got the same cadence and tone the entire time. So this is a little bit different from that. This is including more human elements in order to provide a more human aspect to AI, and that's something that they've been working on for a long time. More expressive robotics and just sort of demystifying the nature of human communication and things like that in general, so that they can apply it towards these things. That's always been a big part of AI development. Creation of universal standards for AI to AI interactions, which would be, another big thing. I mean, because part of what has propelled humans to be so successful on this planet is the fact that we can communicate with one another in such a comprehensive and complex way. It doesn't always feel like that, but by and large, we can, much more so than other animals can. We have the ability to relay information to one another through multiple different forms. And I don't just mean, written and spoken as well, but also, with different connotations, with different feelings, with different perspectives, and we can relay this information very effectively to one another most of the time. So that would be a major thing for AI as well. If they could actually communicate and learn from one another as well as they could learn from us, you would see a huge leap forward in the capabilities of artificial intelligence. AI will be used in more services and apps. And, when we talk about AI as it stands today, when you think of AI, you probably think of like I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that, or, whatever. AI nowadays is much simpler than that. It can't make inferences and do as complex reasoning, as much complex reasoning as we can. It can make decisions, make recommendations, learn and apply things based on previous patterns and stuff like that. Like there's advanced AI out there that can do stuff like that. But it's not quite, like we would think it would be when we're thinking of the popular version of AI. But still, you're going to start seeing a lot more of it. Apple will build out AI features for Siri across iOS and macOS, so iPhones and Macs can support some voice commands like an Echo. So the ability to, hook your computer or your smartphone up to your house and, do tell it commands and things like that. On top of that, to have more complex interaction between you and your phone and your computer. Microsoft will release an intelligent agent and a PC to rival Amazon's Echo, Home Hub, which will work with Cortana. So now we've got basically the three major, well, not the three, but three major computer uh, uh, firms all rolling out their own version of like a home AI. You've got Amazon with Echo, so if you've ever seen the little cylinder thing that you can talk to and request to turn the music up and down and stuff like that. And then you've got as Apple with Siri, and then you've got Microsoft with Home Hub, which will don the voice of Cortana. But yeah, deep reinforcement learning. Deep reinforcement learning allowed AI to beat the world Go champion. In 2017, the same technique will be applied to problems like automated driving and industrial robotics. So for a while now, AI has been able to beat chess champions, or at least hold its own against chess champions. But Go has always been sort of elusive and out of reach because Go has so many possibilities. For such a simple rule set, the possibilities in how a Go game can run in one direction or another, the possible moves in the future, they are miles and miles ahead of chess. Chess, you can, like a lot of times AI tends to solve the board in that they see all potential future moves. So you'll also see that the AI will get faster as the game moves on and things like that. But anyway, that's whereas we as humans, we tend to try and anticipate and think a few moves ahead based on what the person is doing and based on that kind of person that they are. And AI will look at all possible future moves, all of them, and go, okay, so if I do this, this takes me down a branch of possibilities that has the highest probability of me winning. And then, the human will move and they'll go, okay, so now that narrows down my number of possibilities, let me look at all of the moves from here into the future now. And it does it again, and it goes, okay, so if I move this here, this takes me down this branch, which has the highest possibility of me winning. And then the human responds, and then they do this back and forth for a while. And that's how, AI tends to handle things like chess and stuff like that, is they tend to try and solve the board entirely and guide a human into the possibilities that force it to win. Whereas humans playing against one another, they'll do the same thing, but there's more of a give and take. There's more of an action and a reaction kind of a thing where you sit there and you go, okay, so they did this. Is it because they're a very aggressive player? Maybe I should play a little bit more defensively to try and get them to think that, they're winning and overextend, and then I can take advantage of that, blah, 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 blah. It's a totally different thing, which is part of the reason why Go has been so difficult for computers to solve, because there are so many possibilities. However, that happened last year. The World Go champion was the first time ever it was defeated by an AI. Now you can see maybe kind of why I was geeking out about it more than it sounded like I should be initially. AI developments will lag behind talent gaps in big data analytics. We will need more expertise and talent with big data analytics just to develop predictive models for new AI apps and services and plow through big data accumulations. This is a big part of the reason why, we have AI now, is it's meant to look at, large collections of data and suggest conclusions based on that. Thing is, part of the way that AI learns is by people writing programs to interpret large sums of data, which requires people to interpret those large sums of data. So we kind of have to do the legwork for AI before AI can do it, which is part of the reason why there are these job postings which are starting to pop up for big data analytics, and B, the number of industries and things like that are starting to collate huge amounts of data. Well, it's starting to outpace the development of AI. So you'll also see a need for that sort of a need for workers in that field as well. Advances in data processing and cloud applications mean more free data platforms online for all users. This will mean more democratization of data, more data available to people, more freer distribution of data, hopefully, which means that you're going to have a freer internet. And well, that would certainly be nice. Recognition of AI as augmented intelligence. Broader understanding in society that AI is not out to destroy the world or take all jobs. Humans and machines have complementary capabilities, and AI blends these respective strengths, resulting in a form of augmented intelligence. So we have a specialization that machines don't have, and that is the ability to infer and draw conclusions and create abstract correlations between seemingly disparate things in the world. Oh, the moon. The moon is bright tonight. Moon is really big. The ocean is higher today. Maybe those two are related. You wouldn't. We as humans have been able to make that correlation, and beyond that, even quantify it. That's not something that machines can do right now. We can feed that information. Oh, gravity does this. Water does this. Gravity does this to water, and this has gravity, and this has gravity, and it still wouldn't necessarily make that connection. Then again, machines can do computations in a fraction of a second that would take humans minutes, if not hours. Well, minutes at least. So each one has their respective strengths, and they're useful. And AI hopefully helps to sort of bridge that gap between the two, have some of the cognitive reasoning that humans have the computational capability of machines, and to be able to sort of bridge that gap and be a link between the two. Ethics for AI. This year we will see businesses, citizens, experts, governments, regulators, and watchdog groups debate as they try to create a coherent ethos for AI and the laws and regulations that will inevitably follow. Rather than being reactive about the whole thing, being stuck behind the fact that, oh, we have AI now, but we don't have any sort of framework in place for laws concerning it. Not even like AI breaking laws, but like, people using AI for nefarious ends. How does that work out? People stealing blueprints for code to create AI, even though it might be, is that property theft, intellectual property theft? Is it okay because it's considered a sovereign intelligence, and so we shouldn't own it? Is it considered? These become very weird and sticky sort of philosophical and law situations, which means that tackling it now means that we will be more prepared for whenever something like this emerges. So today, the three components of AI, training data, machine learning, and human-in-loop workflows, can be applied to a business process for less than $100,000. More than 26,000 U.S. businesses make more than $50 million annually, can use AI for an investment of 0.2% of their revenue. So they can utilize AI. So it's becoming, more and more widely used. So yeah, AI. Which leads us nicely into self-driving cars. What do we mean by calling something an autonomous car? Well, let's pull up this video. I will bring this link over to your side, and I will mute myself and we can watch this. So there you go. Gives some idea of the sort of the goals of autonomous driving. Um, Meant to be rolled out in stages over time. Uh, Obviously, self-driving cars aren't going to be a thing tomorrow or anything like that. And some of it will have to be, people getting over the fact that they're relinquishing control of something that is inherently so dangerous. So there's that as well. But regardless, that is a hopeful goal for the future. The idea being anyway that by having people relinquish control of something so inherently dangerous, we can make the roads safer. But anyway, yeah, level 0, human drivers in complete control. Maybe the car shifts its own gears if you, you know, hate fun. I don't disagree with that. It's a lot of fun to drive a manual. Driver must be ready to take over at any time. Features like adaptive cruise control, parking assist with automatic steering, lane keeping assist in any combination. That's level 1. Then level 2, automated system is doing most of the driving, including steering, braking, and accelerating, but human must be alert and ready to take over at any time. Then you got level 3, which is in specific situations and environments like highway driving, the car is in complete control. Human driver can read or text or whatever if they want. Then you got level 4, the car can drive itself independently in most environments with some exceptions for weather or unusual environments. Human may still need to take over at times. And then finally level 5, all robot all the time, humans just along for the ride and ideally to tell the car where to go. No restrictions where the car can drive. Laws and ethics for automated cars. That's not at all. Huh. Interesting. There we go. Laws and ethics for autonomous cars. Um, yeah, this basically goes over sort of the implicit, or no, explicit, I suppose, uh, agreement that exists between autonomous cars and people on the road. Where does the responsibility lay in situations where, for instance, here, people are crossing the street and the car needs to swerve in order to avoid some sort of obstacle or obstruction or something like that. If they don't, they kill the people riding in the car. If they do, they kill the people crossing the street. So you run into situations like those. And that's just something that this comes back to, the whole AI laws and things like that in the previous post, because you need to be able to figure out what to do in those situations, and if they happen, who's held responsible, if anybody. You might look at it and go like, oh, that's just the AI made the best of a bad situation, and it's really unfortunate, but this is how things are. Or it could be no, there was very clearly a value judgment made that was wrong, and the company that programmed the robot should be held responsible for those, for those subroutines or something like that. Here's another one. Same deal. Gonna mute myself and play it. It's gonna be a very short video. Also pretty remarkable. The complexity that can be emulated from such a simple system um, is pretty amazing. Just the ability to grab things and offer different ranges of strength and things like that. That's something that roboticists, I guess we'll say, have struggled with for a long time. Here's one about a friendly little robot. There you go. And mute. There you go. Something as simple as that. A robot that carries your stuff for you. Still kind of neat. I foresee people trying to kick the thing over when they're being mean, but not everybody's going to be like that either. Russia's new space robots can drive, use tools, and shoot. Space robot. It's like a combination of two favorite things. Anyway. It's pretty interesting, right? Um, I think that one pretty well speaks for itself. Even though I was talking about the sort of the dexterity that's offered by something like this, it's hard to argue with a much more humanoid robot that's able to do things that are considered, uh, dexterous things by humans. Um, who knows that could be 20 years off. Everything's perpetually 20 years off. But it could be, you never know. Could be sooner than that. Um, but it's a pretty neat proof of concept. And then this is the final slide, actually, and this is an entirely different direction. It's all about genetically modified organisms. So this is the first genetically engineered apple, the Arctic apple. Basically, all it does is it doesn't turn brown when it oxidizes. Um, it's more a proof of concept than anything else. Uh, and it's, oxidation on an apple doesn't necessarily ruin the apple. It just looks unpleasant. And so it'll be good for, uh, basically supermarkets that are making ready-made salads and stuff like that. They'll be able to put these apples in there, and the apples will look nice and fresh for a long, long time. They won't have to worry about people going like, you, brown apples, and not buying it or something like that. Um, but it was made using genetic engineering. Now, GMO is not a cheap thing. Genetically modifying crops and things like that is not necessarily cheap. Um, so it tends to be dominated by large companies um, using, cash crops and things like that. However, it's gotten much cheaper. Uh, it's gotten much, much more technologically advanced. So it's no longer dominated by the big dogs, in this case like Monsanto and, a few others. Um, so we're starting to enter an age where genetically modifying foods is becoming more and more prevalent. Whether or not, that's a good or a bad thing, I leave that up to I leave that up to you. I will say though that I feel like it's a lot of times it's made out to be a much scarier thing than it actually is. Um, Things aren't always in such black and white terms. Genetically modifying food, despite the fact that there are a lot of people who are afraid of it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. In fact, there have been a lot of beneficial applications to genetically modifying food. There was actually um, an effort to provide necessary vitamins to rice crops for poor countries in the world, so they could and ones that got a lot of rain. So like we're talking a lot of like Southeast Asian countries and things like that, and Pacific Islander nations and things. Um, where in the poorer areas, you're able to grow this rice that is actually more nutritionally complete than plain old white or brown rice is. Provides more of the nutrients that your body needs in order to, be healthy, which is a huge thing. I mean, that's one of the entire points of genetically modifying things. On top of that, to be resistant to bugs, so you have to use fewer pesticides, to be more resistant to changes in watering, so you don't have to use as much water in order to grow these crops, things like that. These sorts of things are also meant to make it so that it's easier for people to be fed around the world. And it requires fewer resources, less water, less land, um, you know, in order to grow the same amount of food, which is always a plus. Yeah, anti-GMO groups want stronger regulations to evaluate potential long-term impacts of biotech crops on health and the environment, because that is a concern. It's not an invalid concern necessarily. Um, it's one of those things where only through long-term exposure have we found how foods that aren't genetically modified can affect, a human being's health. Because sometimes they're done in very small doses over a long period of time, and you don't see the effects until much later in life. So, who knows? Granted, it's too early to say. But it's not necessarily an invalid concern. That's all I should say. So there are valid arguments to both sides of the equation, and I think that if we approach, you know, genetic modification of crops and things like that responsibly in the next, generation, it will be a huge benefit to humanity. A huge benefit to humanity. The applications for it will be insane. To be able to, alleviate food problems around the world is no small task. And that's exactly what genetic modification of foods hopes to achieve, among other things. So you could be looking at another agricultural revolution like we had in the 60s, the 40s through the 60s and everything like that. So, you never know. But it's important to, take a look at it and approach it with a rational mind. And, don't let your biases one way or another, well, try not to let your biases one way or another affect how you feel about these things. But anyway, that was the last slide. That's going to do it for today. If you have any questions about anything, I'm here. I'm going to go ahead and skip the poll questions. If you just wanted to sit and talk for a while, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I wish you the best. I wish you good luck. Have a wonderful summer, and maybe we'll see you in the fall.